Swim Country Forum today being brought to you by Banner Payson Medical Center, George Henry Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, At Your Service Cleaning and Tree Service, ITD Group, Computer Services, Anytime Fitness, and Hospitality Wireless. Well, good, finally Friday morning, 5 minutes past 9 o'clock, and you know what that means. Yep, you guessed it. It is Friday morning, and it's time for the infamous Hometown Movie Guys. We have Craig, we have Tina, we have Andy in the studio with us this morning, telling us everything about what's going on at the Sawmill Theaters and ever so much more. And also, we're going to be asking you some questions about movies this morning too as we go along. But in the meantime, good morning to all of you. How y'all doing?
Good. That is a terrific theme. I
I
love hearing
Yeah.
that.
Dun, dun, dun.
I feel more royal and regal every moment I hear it.
And you seem less grumpy today.
I am.
that right?
I'm actually quite cheerful.
Really? More coffee or what?
Well, I'm wearing the Jesus and Coffee T-shirt. So,
Well,
yeah.
so that's pretty much the two biggest forces in my life.
I got it. Yeah.
All right, now there's a lot to talk about this morning. First of all, you know, Craig, one of the things that we were talking before the show this morning, one of the things that you mentioned is, you know, in the past few weeks here, it's been kind of that lull time of the year where there wasn't a whole lot of, you know, really spiffy stuff coming out, but that's starting to change right now.
Yeah, it
Spiffy
starts
is the way
to
a
turn.
technical
Yeah,
term is.
well, you come out of the summertime, you know, that's when all the big blockbusters come out, and then there's that kind of slow time, which we have hit, and I think we're kind of coming back out of that now.
Right, and we've got some big new movies starting today, and at the very top of that list would be Ad Astra. It's a story about an astronaut that travels to the outer edges of the solar system to find his father and unravel a mystery that threatens the survival of our planet. It's rated PG-13, so good for just about everybody. Plays at 1, 1:15, 4, 4:15, 7, and 7:15, so it's playing like throughout the day, big
A
time.
lot of show times on this one. This is at an 80 on Metacritic.
You know, I've seen the trailer for this, and it looks really interesting. We were mentioning earlier, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal today, they were comparing this to 2001: A Space Odyssey, which was, I mean, that's still, you know, widely talked about after all these years. So some people thinking this is going to be just epic.
It looks really good. You know, watching these trailers, it's like it says, it is kind of set in space, a little bit of a sci-fi thing, but not anything too crazy.
They don't have a computer named Hal in this, do they?
Yeah, no aliens or anything else.
Okay.
You know, no predators or anything trying to kill people. But
Right. But I like these kinds of movies anyway. I'm anxious to go see this one. I may actually go see a movie myself.
Oh, pish posh.
It's really, we don't believe you.
No, the peanut gallery never believes me. But anyway, so now this just plays for the first time today, right at 1 o'clock.
yeah, just starting.
All right, and Andy, what do we know about this movie so far from your perspective?
Well, this is the director is a guy named James Gray. He has a history of making really wonderful movies that didn't do very well at the box office. So,
What were some of the others that he has that reputation for?
There's one called Immigrants, We Own the Night. Movies that have been very well reviewed, but not well viewed, I guess. Not very many customers.
Not viewed, but reviewed.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have Brad Pitt in the leading role. We have Tommy Lee Jones as his missing in space father.
Kind of spacey dude.
Ruth Negga is one of my favorite more recent actresses.
What would we know her from? That name is not
Preacher.
ringing any dingers.
Yeah, have you ever seen a TV show called The Preacher?
Oh, okay.
She's the girl.
Oh, all right. So that's who she is.
Yeah. Donald Sutherland.
Right, and he's been in like just about every movie this side of the Pecos.
Yeah, absolutely.
He keeps working.
And Liv Tyler.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Steven Tyler's daughter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something happened that she's 42 years old.
Wow.
Goodness.
And her dad is what, like 130 now or something like that?
He looks older.
I know.
But James Gray, the director, set out to make a movie that was the most authentic space movie made to date. And from the trailers and from the reviews, of course we haven't seen it yet because it doesn't show until 1 o'clock. But the reputation that it has built already, that maybe he actually did it. They spent $100 million to make
Wow.
this thing.
Oh,
And one of the things that's on space movies that people don't realize is with the heavily unionized Hollywood that trades, once you get out of the atmosphere, the salaries are just astronomical.
Well, there's like a punzo plenty there. That's interesting, though. So, and that's one of the things about these space movies that, to me, I've even going back to my childhood watching Lost in Space, the weekly show, Danger, Dr. Smith, and all that nonsense. The idea of well, even with Apollo 13, with all of the challenges they had just to get them back home again after problems out in space. I mean, that's terrifying to think that you could just end up sitting out in the void of space and, until your oxygen runs out. And
In space, no one can hear you scream.
that's right.
yeah, there's that wonderful series just off the top
Oh,
of my head.
which one?
The Expanse.
The Expanse.
Yes, and they talk about, they actually use space as a verb when they're gonna fling somebody out into their death.
I
They
know a
say,
few people that use
we're
space
gonna,
as
we're
a
gonna,
verb for
we're
it.
gonna space him.
Yeah.
It's with Thomas Jane. That's a really good series.
And one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting too, first of all, Craig, you had mentioned that this movie, they had a lot of struggles when they were putting this together, and actually had to do a lot of reshooting and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
they did. This one didn't come easy, and they did have to do a bunch of.
Do we know why they lose a camera out in space or something?
No, I just problems with the story, and a lot of times with these movies, they don't just make a movie and then put it out. They go through and they show it to target audiences and get feedback from all sorts of people, and if there's problems, then they have to go back and redo these things. It's pretty common, but this one I guess had some.
So as far as we know, maybe in the original, Liv Tyler was actually an alien or something?
Could be.
You never know.
But in this case, it sounds like they did get it right, and they put together a pretty good movie.
Well, like I say, the trailer looks absolutely epic, and man, $100 million. There's some movies that they've spent more than that on, but that's a pretty serious price tag.
Yeah, and I mentioned the director, James Gray. The budget for this film is more than twice as much as all of his movies combined have grossed.
Wow.
So there's a real discontinuity there.
Somebody's really into serious speculation on this one.
Yeah.
Apparently, it must be an interesting storyline. or
And
something.
I know there are a few people out there who are not conversant in Latin, and ad astra, for the 2 or 3 people out there who don't know that, means to the stars.
Oh, is that, we were asking that this morning of what that means, and I was trying to even go on Google and see if I could find a definition, and all I could find was information about the movie, so apparently I didn't look deeply enough. So to the stars, ad astra, that makes sense. Now, and again, this is starting today, another movie starting today. If you've ever thought about seeing a movie where Jennifer Lopez plays the part of, a lady of the night, I guess that's what this one's about, is it not?
It's a little stripper.
Oh, well, okay. So that's Lady of the Late Afternoon. Then. All right.
Lady of the Pole.
Yeah, polls say this is a good one.
Yeah.
Former strip club employees band together to turn the tables on their Wall Street clients. This one's rated R, so you might want to leave the kids at home for this one. 1:15, 4:15, and 7:15 are the show times. And what do we know about this going into this?
Another one that's gotten great reviews. This
Really?
actually came out last week. We weren't able to get it then, but it actually did so well that they expanded the run on that. So they
Right.
put out some extra prints and pasted out one.
Well, and Jennifer Lopez has never been a difficult one to look at, in my opinion.
Well, there's some buzz here that she might be nominated for an Academy Award for this one.
Wow.
And this is a.
This is according to the polls?
Yep.
Sorry, I had to do it one more time.
Okay.
This is one time you can trust the polls.
Puns are us.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
But no, this is based on a true story. Actually, when this story came out here, but there was basically these strippers were taking credit card information and ripping these guys off, and they were kind of going after these Wall Street types that had the cash. So maybe a little bit of a Robin Hood syndrome going on there.
So strippers ripping off more than just their clothes. Okay.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, well,
exactly.
Jennifer Lopez, by the way, is a fabulous dancer.
Yes.
I mean, remember, she started as one of the fly girls in Living Color.
Oh, really?
Back in the day, that was such a great show. And she also starred with Richard Gere in a dance movie. I can't remember the name of it, but it was, where he learned to dance from her, and she's a magnificent dancer.
Oh, very interesting. And yet, something else to add there, Andy?
Well, interesting cast too. Jennifer Lopez, Julia Stiles, and Usher. who's,
Oh, wow.
Usher.
Usher's a rapper, one of the singer transferring over to into the movie business. So good for him.
Yeah.
And this movie is doing very, very well. I don't know if it's because it's a movie where there are a lot of pretty girls wearing not very much money, and that is popular. Maybe people like to go see those kinds of movies.
They're wearing not very much money. I do like that.
But they spent $20 million to make it. It's already, it's, as Craig said, it's been out in the rest of the world for a week now. $48 million first week, so that's pretty nice.
Wow.
It's a.
And how much did they?
20.
20 to make it. So they got.
Yeah, so they're solidly in the black. Be warned though, the people that go to see this, one of my movie buddies has already seen it and reported to me, but it's set right at the end of the collapse of the economy in 08-09, and prior to that, there were strip clubs that evolved in New York City that catered to the Wall Street guys. And the Wall Street guys were just making money like crazy, really tremendously high-pressure jobs, huge rewards, and they would go to these strip clubs to blow off some steam, and money was no object. And then the collapse came.
And that all changed.
And well, that all changed, and the strip clubs and the girls had built-in expenses that they had, they were accustomed to making a certain level of income. So they started rolling these guys and drugging them, taking their credit cards, running up $10,000, $20,000 bills on their credit cards completely falsely, under the supposition that the guys would be too embarrassed to complain about it. So
a real good, feel-good movie.
yeah. So just be warned. This is not a warm and fuzzy. So.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, it is at I think a 70 on Metacritic. So
70. So the critics seem to like
the
it.
critics have taken this one well.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Now,
And as long as we're on Latin, we might as well say Rex Loco Inquietor. It is what it is.
it is what it is. Okay, I like that. All right. And speaking of it being what it is, the first movie that Sylvester Stallone made of Rambo was Rambo: First Blood. There's been how many different ones since then?
This is number 5.
This is number 5, and this is
Yes.
Rambo: Last Blood.
Rambo: Last Blood.
I don't know if that's going to be an idea of where this show ends up.
Rambo Swan Song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were kidding the other day on the air. This next one is going to be Rambo is embalmed or something like that. But anyway, this franchise obviously been doing good things for a lot of years. The first one came out, was it in the 70s?
82, I think.
82? Yeah, I know it was a while back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So.
But Rambo: Last Blood, Rambo must confront his past and unearth his ruthless combat skills to exact revenge in a final mission. Now, this is also rated R. Typically, with the other Rambo movies, it's a lot of beat 'em up, cut 'em up, blow 'em up.
Rambo beating up bad guys.
Right? Yeah, I always like those.
He's Rambo. What? Sylvester Stallone's 72 now, I think.
And he's still pulling it off. I mean, the guy is in shape.
What? Oh yeah. Oh, it's incredible. There's videos of him on the internet where he's doing pull-ups with a 100-pound weight around his waist. It's just at 72. That's.
Hey, we could do this.
Well, But both
I'm
of my arms
I'm a
would snap off.
72-year-old yoga teacher, so come on now.
There's about 4 or 5 different one-liners there.
I
that
need to
just-
do pull-ups now, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I need to do push-aways from the dinner table. Anyway, this Rambo Last Blood is rated R, plays at 1:30, 4:30, and 7:30. And are the critics liking this one so far, do we know?
A little below average.
Yeah. Apparently, at least one critic thought that was
Means
an
that
mistake.
the public is going to eat it up, right?
Well, you know,
Hasn't that been the case with all the Rambo movies, so where the critics didn't like it and the public ate
well,
it up?
you said it is what it is, and
Yeah.
you know what you're going to get from a Rambo movie, and that's what you're going to get.
I always liked the Rambo
If
movies.
you
so
want
I
to
wouldn't-
go relax and kind of watch that and take out some of your aggressions, it's a good one for you.
Yeah, it's a good movie to watch the bad guys
Yes.
get what's coming.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, now, and Andy, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I couldn't find how much they spent to make this one, and I did look, though they were keeping that on the QT, but I did run across a net worth for Sylvester Stallone, and of course, he's been making movies for a long, long time.
Right.
$400 million.
Wow, so he's not having a hard time paying the rent this month.
No, he must have invested wisely.
Wow, very interesting. Well, now, those are the 3 movies that are starting today: Ad Astra, Hustlers, and Rambo Last Blood. There's also a couple other movies that have been around for a while. We're going to find out how they've been doing. And there's a special faith-based film festival that starts tomorrow, and it's happening every 3rd Saturday of the month at the Sawmill Theaters. We'll find out what that's all about right after these words.
Honey, who can we get to clean our house?
Honey.
Okay, you
think
mentioned,
you were
you mentioned
hearing-
the word Q.
At your service.
A cue?
cleaning and
Oh,
tree
shoot.
service. And we
Well, that's right, I wrote it down, so I won't forget.
What is it?
Firewise
cue?
at home.
Oh, in terms of lining up?
This is Tanya.
And this is
Oh,
Karen.
queuing up, yeah.
Queuing
up.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Elevating and removing
Go ahead, take that.
Plus, call it off.
Good morning, KMOG. Are you calling for the talk show?
Call
All right,
at your
we can
service
decide.
cleaning and tree service.
No idea why, but there's...
Okay, the pigtail that the Chinese guys...
Yes, it's called the Q.
Is called a Q.
Yes,
In the British Navy, sailors wore long hair.
yes.
They would line up one behind the other in the morning before they went to their morning parade, and they would braid each other's hair.
Right.
Wow.
So they're lined up one behind the other, making Qs.
And that's where that term first came
Yes.
from?
That's where that...
Yeah.
Because that's used in, I mean, in Europe, all over.
Queue up,
Sure.
yeah.
Again, to keep it from coming unraveled, they would dip the end of it in tar. Hence the British sailors' slang name, Jack.
Who knew? An
An
interesting side issue on the queues.
Useless
I'm sorry?
knowledge here.
In Australia, they don't do queues.
What do they do?
They stand around in a big crowd and guess on who was next in line.
Oh, cute.
So just like the kangaroos, they mob up.
That's about it. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah you go into a bank and they got 16 people standing in various places in the room. Who's next? Where do I stand?
And truly unlimited data. No long waits trying to get somebody.
Isn't this a special day today?
Yes, I'm going to talk about that. I meant to do that
And we
just
can
before the
segue
Rambo
into
thing.
King Rat, because POW.
And we'll do that all quickly, and then we'll go to the phone.
Reliability, speed,
Whoever it is, they sound excited to be there, so.
Power your build with something that's affordable
Such as it is.
for internet, phone, and TV. Hospitality Wireless. 928-468-0000. Or shoot a text to 928-970-2065.
5 seconds.
to find
Is that
out.
coffee?
Hospitality
Is that
Wireless.
coffee?
Welcome back to Rim Country Forum, 19 minutes past 9 o'clock, 69 degrees, and we have a caller line real quick before we go to the phone. So I want to point out that today, by the way, is National POW Recognition Day, and that, you know, we can't obviously talk enough about that as far as, I mean, the terrible price that we've been talking earlier about the Bataan Death March and some of the really nasty things that prisoners of war have had to go through in our recollection as Americans, but certainly in a lot of other wars and a lot of other countries. But today a day to recognize and pay tribute to prisoners of war all across our country. And boy, a lot of those people have, sustain scars that just don't heal. You might not see them, but they're there. And Tina, you were mentioning a movie specifically in regards to this.
Yes, the great, wonderful, it's a black and white movie by, I can't remember who directed it, but it's called King Rat. And it was made from a book, and we're going to be talking a little bit about books made into movies, with George Siegel and James Fox. And it was written by James Clavell, who was a POW in Changi Prison in Singapore. My family lived in Singapore from 54 to 60, so we met him one time. I mean, I was little, I don't remember, but he was a POW of the Japanese, as were all the people in Changi Prison during the war. When he walked out of Changi Prison at the end of his stint, he was over 6 feet tall and weighed 85 pounds.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
So-
being emaciated about
Yeah.
as far as you can go without dying.
But honest to gosh, that book was just extraordinary. I've seen the movie countless times, I've read the book. James Clavell being a wonderful author who wrote Shogun, Noble House, all kinds of fabulous books with lots and lots of detail. But King Rat is maybe my favorite of all of his books.
Check that out, King Rat.
Yeah.
I mentioned we could probably find that on Amazon or
It's just-
something like that.
It's an amazing movie, and it was made back in the day where there wasn't any PC stuff about, the brutality of the Japanese. It was awful.
Wow, interesting. So again, something to think about, maybe checking out on Netflix or something on this National POW Recognition Day. All right, 26 and a half now past the hour, back to the phones. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum, good morning. Hello? Yeah, we waited too long. They were there, but now they're gone.
You
but-
told them we would take it.
Yep,
Oh, there they
they're
go.
back again. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum, good morning. Oh, every time I see her on TV, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't care what age that is, that's
Well, 50 is the
looking
new
good.
30, I guess,
I
or something.
guess, it
Yeah.
certainly wasn't when I was 50. But anyway, yeah, good point. So I take it
Thank you.
he's already gone. Apparently another fan, and Jennifer Lopez has lots of those. All right, so anyway, we were talking about, again, the movies that start today at the Sawmill Theater, Ad Astra, Hustlers, and Rambo Last Blood. Also want to talk a little bit about one that's been playing now for, I think it's been just a week, and that was It Chapter 2, the Stephen King story. How's that been doing at the local theater here, Craig?
That's done well.
Really?
Yeah, Payson's not a real big horror town, but you get a movie like this,
Stephen King brings him out, right?
yes, yeah. Well, this is the second part of this too, so I mean, if you saw the first one, you definitely have to come see this.
Yeah, I don't think I saw the first one, but it seems like in the Stephen King movies I have seen, it's not your typical cheesy storyline like in some horror movies where
No,
you can
these
tell
are-
someone's about to say boo, and
Yeah, no, this
and-
isn't just jump stars. There's some content to this.
Very interesting, and it's all about 27 years after their first encounter with Pennywise, that weird creepy clown. The Losers Club have grown up and moved away until a call brings them back. And it's rated R, plays at 1:15 and 6:15, still playing at the Sawmill Theaters. And has this been doing pretty good?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it sure
What
has.
kind of numbers is it?
Made it for 70, so far it's brought in $340 million.
Wow.
So that is, spectacular
And
success.
that's just in 1 week?
Came in the 5th.
Okay, so a couple
Yeah.
weeks anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I'm not one for horror movies, but if people are interested in what I think about it, they can look on today's newspaper, the Payson Roundup, and it's way back in the very, 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 very back, instead of on the front page where it should be.
And how many saw blades did you throw at it?
I gave it 4 bloody saw blades.
All right, and not bad for a guy that doesn't like horror movies. I mean, obviously you saw something, worthwhile.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very well-made movie, and scary and creepy and not, as Craig says, it's not just startle terror.
Right.
It's very, very
Well,
well
his
done.
plots are always pretty deep. Hey, we got another caller on the line, 29 minutes past the hour. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Thanks for waiting. Hi there. Yeah, and you know, that happens. I know you've mentioned this before, Craig, that
Yeah, you know, that's actually what we definitely should talk about, was going to talk about here today too. We've had a lot of requests on Downtown Abbey, and yeah, as you said, sometimes, you know, depending on the film distribution, they don't always go to the small towns right away. We are hoping for October 4th on this. So 2 weeks from today. We don't have that locked in yet, but we are trying to reach out to the studio and get something locked in there. So as soon as we have that, we'll put it on the website. But I'm
kind of optimistic.
I'm optimistic, yes. So we get it on the 4th.
Is Downtown Abbey, is that near Downton Abbey?
Oh,
I had to ask.
grown.
Hey, thanks for the call.
Downton
Boo.
Abbey.
Downton Abbey, yes.
Downton Abbey.
Okay, and I know that's been a big deal on TV, Doc, and
Oh, it's one of my favorite all-time series.
This will come as a big shock to you, but I've never watched it.
Like I said, we do listen to people, you know, and I have had a lot of requests for it. So we're doing our best there.
Right. When it comes to British stuff like that, I mean, I never got past Monty Python. I pretty much where I just like to stay kind of in that whole genre, you know. The nights that go, "Neat."
I put you in the gun room, shall we?
I'm not dead yet. I'm feeling much
You
better.
soon will be. We'll put you in the gun
Yeah,
room.
terrible, terrible. Well, anyway, now another movie that is still playing, and matter of fact, we just had comments on it this morning here on KMOG on the morning show, and that is Overcomer, a story about a high school basketball coach volunteers to coach a troubled teen in long distance running. It's rated PG. It's currently playing at 1, 4, and 7 p.m. How's this been doing overall, Craig?
It's done good.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, this is in that faith film category, and
Right.
we have good responses to these.
Right, and so when it comes to, my pants are ringing, when it comes to overall numbers, Andy, how is this one done?
Splendidly.
Splendid.
Yeah. This,
We should go have some tea.
And
They-
carpets.
Jeez.
Gotcha.
This is made by the Kendrick brothers. They started out about 10 years ago, made a movie for $100,000. They made this one for $5 million. They said that this is the first time they ever had enough money to make their own sets.
Wow.
So, and it's done very, very well in percentage terms. They made it for $5 million. It's still in the theaters. It's still making money. And it's taken in $30 million.
Well, that's a nice return.
Yeah, so maybe the next movie that they make will be even more money. Maybe they'll have $6 million to make.
Bigger sets.
Bigger sets, yeah. Makeup.
Well, we've talked about this, you know, a number of times in the past year. It does seem like there, and I'm refreshed to hear and see it, that there seems to be a growing hunger for these faith-based films, and they're being well received. And obviously, part of that must be due. I mean, aside from maybe the hunger for the storyline and the morals and all of those kind of things, but obviously these are being made a little bit higher caliber quality of production as well.
Sure. And the title of this one, Overcomer, this is about a high school coach. It's set at the beginning of we were talking about the other movie with the economic downturn.
Mhm.
Well, this is set in a small industrial town, and when the downturn hits, the Christian school where this guy works loses half of its students.
Ouch.
Because nobody can, everybody loses their jobs. The local factory closes. He loses his whole basketball team essentially. He's a basketball coach, and so they make him teach track. He has one track athlete, and she has asthma. So, I mean, when you say overcomer, boy, this guy's got a lot to overcome.
Boy, that scenario sucks. Pun intended. Hey, we have another caller online. We're going to come back to that in a second. But hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it sounds like originally it looked like they weren't going to release it to smaller markets like Payson, but Craig was just saying that they're optimistic it hasn't been cemented in yet, but it sounds like, what, another couple of weeks you may have?
We're hoping for 2 weeks, yeah, we're really trying for, I think it's October 4th.
And this, you know, there's a lot of people, I know that this thing on TV, although I'm one of the ignorant few who hasn't watched it, but I know that this has been a big deal. So this movie is probably going to be a pretty big deal as well.
I've had a lot of feedback on this.
Really?
People ask about a lot of movies, but this one's really, this has been more than usual, for sure. So we were definitely looking at it.
Thank you. And so I got to ask, Tina, when it comes to Downton Abbey, what is it about this that really, flips your
Well,
truffles?
from a personal point of view, I grew up in British colonies, and I learned to sing God Save the Queen before I learned to sing the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh.
I mean, 1954,
I
we
knew there
moved
was
to
something a little
Singapore.
different
Yeah,
about
I
you.
know. I went to a British school. I knew many people who were the different strata. The interesting thing about Downton Abbey is it really does examine the class strata of British society. It's kind of a throwback to Upstairs, Downstairs, which was a wonderful old series on PBS back in the 70s, I think, or 80s. But it shows the evolution of the relationships, both in the higher, the higher class, the owners of Downton Abbey, but the responsibility that they felt towards their tenants, who were the farmer tenants, people who worked downstairs, serving them, and this huge staff of people. And there are loyalties, there are betrayals, it's like a very elevated soap opera.
Well, and just to try and demonstrate the fact that I'm not completely devoid of British understanding, back in the 70s on PBS was also when Monty Python's Flying Circus was doing so
Absolutely.
well.
And they made fun of a lot of the types that are in Downton Abbey, the
Right.
Newells, the Nitties, but it really is
And
a
the knights that go,
fascinating. It's a fascinating portrait of British society, and it does make one wonder about the evolution. The series went through pre-World War I, then people went away to World War I, and then when they came back, they had a different viewpoint of whether this lord should be their lord, because they had fought side by side with
Interesting.
people who were of different classes.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
23 minutes in front of 10 o'clock. Hi, you're on Room Country Forum. Good morning.
Oh, my word.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you might. But I find, just as far as demographically, I find that interesting that Jackson Hole is not a place where I would assume that a lot of people would be watching Downton
Oh,
Abbey.
that's a very foo-foo place. That's kind of a,
Really?
yeah,
Has it gotten that way?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Exactly.
That's why I haven't been there
Yeah.
in so long. Okay, I
Yeah,
knew there was a reason.
exactly. Well, you know what they say about the British? This is what I learned when I was a kid. You can do whatever you want, as long as you don't do it in the street and frighten the horses.
Your KMOG Red Country weather forecast for the...
It seemed like a perfect time to just go right to the weather. Do it in the streets and frighten
Frighten
the
the
horses.
horses.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I think you were hearing my hearing aids whistling.
Is that what, I heard something going a little bit. I was trying to figure out what
I
that
don't know
was.
why, it's never done that before, it just started doing it today.
Kind of
To the south.
It was objecting to some of our really lame puns.
atmospheric feedback.
They get feedback.
I took them out and put them in my pocket.
Sunny weekend.
Oh.
Huh?
I took them out and put them in my pocket.
Sorry, that was a joke.
Right here on your...
Okay, so we talked Overcomer. So now we're going to talk about because we talked about Overcomer being a faith-based movie. Now we need to talk about the Faith Film Festival. And then we'll just do that quickly, maybe reiterate it.
And then books that should be made into movies.
That's
Yes.
right.
Or books that maybe people haven't seen, because I haven't.
Or as we said last week, or just stories that need to be made into a movie that haven't been yet.
The reason I don't watch Downton Abbey is because I lived in Australia.
Oh.
for 4 weeks, 4 months.
Yeah, because
4
in the land
years.
down under, that'd be uptown Adley.
Oh, that was,
Well, the Pommies, they didn't like the
oh,
Pommies.
Pommies, they hate Pommies down
Yeah,
there.
I know, I know.
And
They've-
don't
they've-
don't mistake.
They've gone all
Country Forum,
squishy anyway.
talking this morning with your hometown movie guys. We have Craig, Tina, and Andy with us in the studio this morning and taking calls from you at 474-2427. Now, before we go on, we've mentioned the movie Overcomer that is still playing at 1, 4, and 7 p.m., a faith-based movie that has been doing really well playing at the Sawmill Theaters. But one of the things that they're doing that I think is just really cool is they're starting their Faith Film Festival, which is they're showing a faith-based film every third Saturday of the month. And Craig, this time around, it's War Room, talking about prayer as a powerful weapon. A seemingly perfect family looks to fix their problems with the help of an older, wiser woman. And plays, again, this will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. You get in for just $5. And have you been getting people, asking for this kind of thing?
Oh, sure. We've had a lot of interest on this one. I'm actually, I'm going to set up 2 theaters for this tomorrow. So,
Oh, wow, you're expecting a pretty good crowd.
Well, you know what? It's always kind of hard to say what to expect on these. This is the first one, so I am expecting a crowd though, and I don't want to have to turn people away.
Sure.
So we're going to err on the side of caution here.
So again, you get in for just $5 too, and I think it's encouraging the hunger that we seem to have when it comes to movies that have more of a faith-based focus and message. I just think that says something good about us as a society.
Sure. Yeah, and real quick too, we're not locked into this yet, but for next weekend, we're looking at maybe getting The Other Side of Heaven. This is an LDS film on some of the work that Mormon missionaries have done.
Oh.
But it's a sequel to a 2001 film. If we do get it, it would just be we're looking at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so kind of a short run on that. But
Right.
as soon as I get locked into that, I'll let everyone know.
Yeah, very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, War Room is wonderful. I saw it twice when it was here.
That says a lot. When you want to go back and watch it a second time,
I
obviously
did.
something
I
hit
loved
you
it.
there.
I just loved it. It was very inspiring. It made me feel stronger after when I walked out of the theater.
Wow.
Yeah,
And this is another Kendrick's Brothers production.
right.
And many of the same cast members are in War Room that are also in Overcomer.
Very interesting. And again, check it out tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the morning at the Sawmill Theaters. You get in for just $5. And real quick, also before we go on, we want to mention that the kids' movies are back. And you know how the elementary school kids, they get out early on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays, yes.
And as a result, Sawmill Theaters have been providing something fun for them to do, where they can get in for just $5 every Wednesday at 2 p.m. And this week, what is Shrek the Third?
Shrek the Third, yes.
All
that's the
right,
next one.
so this is the third in the series of Shrek stuff.
Yes.
All right, and I always thought those movies were pretty funny. I had to watch those. I mean, I had the opportunity to watch those with my grandkids. And but I mean, the writing is it's another one of those movies where the kids are entertained, but yet there's enough little innuendos and one-liners going on in the background that the adults can get a big belly laugh. as
Yeah,
well.
Shrek a little bit more than some of the other kids' movies.
Right,
but,
right.
Yeah, they've done quite well, and these have all made a ton of money in their days. So.
Gotta love it. And of course, you can always find out what's playing and when it's playing by going online to sawmilltheaters.com or calling 928-595-0876 and get your questions answered that way. Now, one of the things that we started last week, and we've had a number of phone calls on this, and it sounds like some of our hometown movie guys have as well, asking us to do more. I had one guy call last week and said, I really want you to do it again, but don't do it next week because I won't be in town. And it's like, well, sorry, we're going to do it anyway. And that is, we're going to talk about different books that need to be made into movies, maybe books that were made into movies that need to be remade again and with the modern capabilities, or for that matter, just stories, historical stories, whatever it might be, that need to be made into movies so that we can share that on the big screen. And the number of comments that I've had from people off that, I mean, it's a pretty wide open question as far as where that can take you. And Tina, you've had some more thoughts since last time around as well.
Well, I'm a big fan of Michael Connelly's books. He wrote The Lincoln Lawyer and all of the Hieronymus Bosch, who is a detective, his books. And Hieronymus Bosch is also half-brother with Mickey Haller, who is the Lincoln Lawyer. So there's a lot of interplay between Michael Conley books. Michael Conley is a fabulous writer. And, murder mysteries. There's a great series on Prime called Bosch, in which they have made some of this into movies. But I really feel that Michael Conley is a wealth of books, has a wealth of books that could be made into movies, and so I would like to see more of that.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And Andy, are there any others that we didn't talk about last week that, I mean, as far as a book or something that needs to be made into a movie, or maybe movies that need to be remade with, present day capabilities that you'd like to see?
Yeah, I've got a couple of them. One is a Robert Heinlein book. Heinlein wrote about a dozen what we would call today young adult movies, or what young adult books, and
You mean like Mad Magazine, stuff like that?
I just got the signal, and I don't know how many that was.
50. He has 50 books.
Well,
50
Most of them
books.
are young
Yes.
adults.
50
Okay,
books.
and one of them was a young adult book called The Rolling Stones. And Tina would like it because it's about a family that buys a used spaceship on the moon and goes off to the asteroid belt. And the family is called, the Stone family. And
Yeah, but those used spaceship salesmen on the moon, they're loony.
oh,
Sorry. Thank you. I'm here every Friday. Tip your waitress. Try to have a
but I think that would make a terrific movie. There's such interesting characters. There's a grandmother character who's very, very wise. The father is a very brilliant fella. He writes soap operas, and he figures he can write soap operas just as well while he takes his family to on a tour of the solar system as he can from his home in wherever he lives. So there's a lot of writer stuff in there that I thought was appealing.
Very
So
interesting.
I think it would make a great movie.
Very interesting.
And we have a call.
We do. Let's go to
And
the phone.
Star
Hi, Green Country
Beast.
Forum. Good morning.
Star Beast.
I heard that
Could be another one.
Sawmill Whistle is going to start up in Denver.
I heard the same thing. What's the latest from the Sawmill Theater Complex? I heard that they were looking at resurrecting the Sawmill Whistle. I know they had
Yeah.
they had to do some work on it to get it up and running and all that.
Yeah, I understand it's all hooked up and ready to go, and I think they're wanting to do a ceremony for that to kind of get that going, but I think they're just doing.
We're taking to do that during the Main Street Days coming up here in early October?
That could be.
For
I
some reason, I think
don't
that's,
have those details. I know it is hooked up and it's ready to go.
and we'll all know about it when it happens, because you
Well,
can
you
hear
know-
that even out in Star Valley.
Right. Well, that was originally the intent, I think, was that they
Right.
could hear it out there at Phil White.
Right?
But yeah, I understand just noon and 5, they're not gonna do that morning.
I know, it used to be, I know back in the 80s and stuff, when we had our restaurant down on Main Street, 80s and 90s, they did it at noon to start lunch, 1 o'clock to end lunch, and I think they did it again at 5 at the end of the day. But, having a restaurant right across the street from that, again, I've said it many times, but thoroughly my most entertaining moment of the day was I would walk out and watch our customers sitting on the patio through the window, and I would look at my watch and count down the seconds until you watch the entire crowd jump in the air every time that went off.
Oh, yeah.
I just kind of deep-seated inner hostility on my part.
It's got some volume to it for sure.
Man, I tell you what, it really blows.
Back,
Hey, thanks for bringing that up, though. It's a good point, and I do believe, I think I heard that they were trying to get that unveiled during the Main Street Days, which are coming up in the first week or two of October. And we'll get some more details on that and try and share it here on the air. Outstanding. We have to take one more quick break, and when we come back, we'd like to find out from you too, what is one book that you'd like to see made into a movie, maybe a movie that needs to be remade with present-day capabilities, or for that matter, maybe a story from history that needs to be made into a movie. Give us a call, 474-2427. Back with more right after this.
George Henry's Plumbing Heating wants to remind
What is this? I missed what you're talking about being unveiled.
Oh, the sawmill whistle.
The whistle.
It used to be, the sawmill used to be where the Sawmill Theater is now. and they had a big steam whistle there that they, would, the start of lunch, the end of lunch, the end of the day and all that. And you could, I've been out in Star Valley before when you could hear it. And that was down on Main Street, you could hear it out in Star Valley.
You see it
really loud.
Tyrannosaurus wrestling.
Pretty cool stuff.
Oh, you're like, you freeze, you know?
What do you think about Star Beast with all the dinosaur movies we've been having?
The what?
Where they train your dinosaur movies.
Oh, yeah.
Star Beast would be an excellent version of that.
Well, there you go.
Robert Heinlein.
Yeah, Heinlein is
Our
good.
website, Facebook, and Instagram.
50 books.
He did 50 books total,
Yeah.
and he won the Hugo Award 4 years in a row.
What, did he do the Conan?
Huh?
No.
Welcome back to the Rim Country Forum, 10 minutes in front of 10 o'clock, 71 degrees. We have the hometown movie guys with us in the studio here. We have Tina, Craig, and Andy with us. And also, if you've been wondering, who's that voice off in the distance? Well, we make him sit in the corner every week. But that's Don Klein, and he videotapes this every week and then shares it on his YouTube channel. So all you have to do is go on YouTube, look for the Don Klein channel, and that's spelled with a C, C-L-I-N-E. And look for it there, and then you can get all the behind-the-scenes stuff, what goes on during the commercial breaks, which can sometimes be troubling. But you can catch all of that on the Don Klein channel, so check it out, and you'll see just how weird this really is. If you think it sounds strange on the radio, it's even stranger when you're watching it on YouTube. Now, to the phones we go. We're asking people, what is a book that you'd like to see made into a movie, maybe remade, remade into a movie with today's current professional standards, etc., and/or maybe a story from history that needs to be made into a movie. And we've been asking for your calls at 474-2427, and here's one now. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning. Hi there. Hey, Terry, how you doing?
Oh, thank you.
Your weeks must really stink. I'm just kidding. We appreciate that very much.
You don't get out much, do you?
Oh, yeah. Huh.
What are you talking to?
I read that book, so I think you're right. I think it's a really fascinating concept.
And Jonathan Livingston Seagull, the
Yeah.
other book, I mean, that was so well received, and
Yeah.
it was a big seller. And, a lot of kind of symbolism in a lot of what he writes, and I can almost hear some in this right now. And the name of this book again was
Delusion?
Delusions. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, it was good. I liked it.
Interesting. Hey, thanks for bringing that up.
Good
and
choice.
I haven't thought about Jonathan Livingston Seagull in a couple of decades, but that's a great movie, or great story rather. And if you have a
Right.
chance to pick up a copy, if you haven't read that book, it's a short read, but it's got a great message.
And some of the movies that we have, that I've looked up and remembered as seeing the movies that were made, but maybe people haven't seen them for a while. One of my favorites, but it's just a tearful one, is The English Patient.
The English Patient.
Yes, oh my God, though, that is a very, very poignant movie,
Wow.
and was a book that was made into a movie.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
7 minutes in front of the hour. Another caller on the line. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning. Hi. Oh, Exact Revenge. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the movie? Obviously, there's revenge involved. I'm unfamiliar with that book.
About a guy, I think his son was killed by cops or something, crooked cops, and he's going after him, and it's very full of action. Just, it starts, like I said, at the beginning and doesn't end until the end.
And it sounds interesting, and it's called, did you say Exact Revenge or Exacting Revenge? Exact Revenge, okay, okay. Right, interesting.
And is there an opportunity for a lot of bad guys to get beat up and shot and stuff? Oh, excellent, I like that.
Oh, let's do it. Are there zombies though?
You can get Sylvester Stallone.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Good.
Very good, I have to
Thank
check
you.
that
I
out.
wrote it down, thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much for that, appreciate it. Interesting.
And I have another nominee. One of my favorite authors is a guy named John Ringo, and he wrote a book called Live Free or Die. And it has wonderful, wonderful characters in it. It involves space aliens who land in a little town up in New England, and they're looking for things that they can trade. You know, this guy's a far trader, and they show him all kinds of stuff. Who needs any of that? And they find out that maple syrup for some species of the intergalactic community has the effects of rum magnified. So they have that whole thing. Really terrific characters, lots of things that visually would be really cool. One of the things that they have in the book is implants of extremely high-tech computer stuff, so that you can get hooked right into your brain. But the technicians that do this, the physicians, are a species that are shaped like cockroaches. So that would make for an interesting visual.
That would kind of bug you, I think, after a while. 4 minutes in front of 10 o'clock, and another caller on the line. Hi, you're on Rim Country Forum. Good morning. Good morning.
Or the Nancy Drew Mysteries.
Oh,
That's interesting.
This life and struggles, I guess you would call it, of Bert Rutan.
Bert Rutan?
Out of the world aircraft or stuff. Like right now, the United States has the largest aircraft on the planet.
Right. Okay, and this guy was a designer of that kind of stuff? Oh, right.
wow.
And I'm, whenever you're talking about that kind of thing, I'm thinking of Spruce Goose and good old, what's his face? But interesting, I bet that would be interesting, just to find out, where all of his motivation came from and everything. Before we're out of time here, I gotta ask the question real quick of Craig. Now, with all this talk about books being redone or movies being redone, is there any other one that comes to your mind that you'd like to see?
Well, I like the sci-fi stuff. The Dragon Riders of Pern.
Oh,
It was a series, back in the 80s, I think those were all written, but
wow.
these dragons were used to this planet came back into the solar system, and it threw off, well, they called it thread, but this like kind of destructive stuff that rained down on the planet, and they rode these giant dragons and burned the thread out of the sky to keep everything safe.
And our voice from the back corner of the room here a little bit ago was mentioning he'd like to see Star Beast, with all of these things
Yes,
with
yeah.
How to Train Your Dragon and stuff like that. That's another movie or another book that I've not read. But interesting. It's fascinating to get everybody's read on this. I mean, it seems like there's a bunch of stories out there that we need to go after. Of course, a
Well,
lot of people just remaking movies too.
a lot of
making movies.
sci-fi hasn't been made. The A.E. Van Vogt, The Weapon Shops of Ishur, that's one of my all-time favorites. Yes, we're getting a cheer from Don back in the corner.
Yay.
Yeah, that's a great book.
Interesting, interesting. And what's it called again?
The weapon shops of Isher.
Oh, interesting.
And for sci-fi fans, rejoice, rejoice, there will be a remake of Dune coming out next year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Frank Herbert, what a set of books that was.
Very interesting.
Really good.
Well, again, you can always find out what's playing and when it's playing by going online to thesawmilltheaters.com. You can give them a call at 928-595-0876. And always great stuff. Again, starting there today, War Room, Ad Astra, and Hustlers, as well as Rambo, Last Blood. A lot of good stuff going on at the Sawmill Theaters, as always. Thanks to the Hometown Movie Guys for being with us this morning, and thank you for tuning in and listening to Rim Country Forum. It's been brought to you by Banner Payson Medical Center, George Henry Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, At Your Service Cleaning and Tree Service, ITD Group, Computer Services, Anytime Fitness, and Hospitality Wireless. Well, you're listening to Rim Country Radio, KMOG Payson coming up on 10 o'clock, 71 degrees. Suzanne Michaels.